What's up, everybody, and welcome to the SP and Bushy Show, coming to you from various parts of Colorado. I'm SP. He's Bushy. Bushy, how you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good, buddy. I'm coming from parts unknown in Colorado. Let's put it that way. We should just call it parts unknown.
Absolutely, parts unknown.
Yeah, parts unknown.
Early '90s WWE style, parts unknown.
Yes, parts unknown or something like that. Actually, I'm from Death Valley. I'm just making it just a broad thing. Death Valley, Colorado.
Exactly. Anyway, we're two lifelong friends, started a podcast, and we got a lot to talk about here on this sports podcast. World Series just wrapped up. And we're going to talk about some fun stuff with that. And then obviously NFL and college football in full swing, as our hockey and basketball. So lots of fun stuff going on.
Yeah, we have some stuff, and we had the first college football playoff rankings coming out yesterday. So, obviously, really, the committee, this is the reason why we're screaming, for playoff expansion, because of the initial list so far.
Absolutely. I don't get what Cincinnati has to do. They beat Notre Dame. They're one of the few teams on this list who actually has a win over a top 10 opponent.
Right, yes. And actually, it does help for you as well. You're justified as well with Oregon actually being ahead of Ohio State right now with the head-to-head matchups, even though it sounded like, basically it sounded like it wasn't really doing anything right now, but it showed.
Well, that's at least fair, but you have an undefeated Oklahoma team too that's eighth?
Yeah, it's an interesting it is a very, very interesting. Yeah, it is a very interesting list so far.
So I don't get, once again, say what you want to about Cincinnati, but how is an undefeated Oklahoma team that far below Alabama and that far below Ohio State when both of them have taken defeats?
Right, yeah, and they are below Michigan too, which lost last week to Michigan State as well. I know Michigan State's number 3, but you got to at least put Oklahoma probably in this mold right now, maybe in that 5, 6, 7. Really, I guess they really have not been impressed with their victories so far. They really should have lost to Kansas, to be honest.
Right, they should have.
Yeah, they should have lost to Kansas, and they had Tulane as well. It's just really based on the committee, they really haven't been impressed with this resume too with the Sooners.
But once again, then what does the committee want? Does the committee want you to just go out there and hang 70 every week on your opponent and just beat them mercilessly? Because to me, beating your opponent by a lot each week and then taking one loss is way less impressive than finding a way to win every week. I think that needs to be the standard. I have San Diego State ahead of all these one-loss teams because if you go undefeated, that is harder to do than to beat bad teams by 50 every week by beating the teams that you should beat by a wide margin. I think it's harder to do when you get everyone's best game to beat them every week.
Right, yeah, and if we're going by head-to-head matchups right now, as far as the big resume, either win or loss, Alabama lost to Texas A&M, who's 14, and Cincinnati beat Notre Dame, which is ranked 10th. Based on that lower ranking, you should at least take Alabama off. Really, it's just really out of respect for Alabama. I guess that's really just the case. It's just really just the Alabama respect that they're getting right now, as far as with that.
But once again, it shouldn't be based on past performances. It should be based on this season in a microcosm. That's what we're raking things on, right?
Right, yeah. And I really, other than probably their loss to Texas A&M, Alabama's probably been one of the better teams so far. So,
right, absolutely.
But I think they should have been maybe 3 or 4 right now,
They
instead
should be
of
the
number
top
2.
one-loss team, which would put them behind Georgia, obviously.
Yeah.
I would have Cincinnati 2. I would have Michigan State 3. I'd have Oklahoma 4. I have Wake Forest 5, and then I have Alabama 6.
You have Wake Forest in?
Wake Forest is beating everyone each week, and they're beating them convincingly. What more do you want them to do?
That is true, man, and especially watching that game that they had against Army, which was just really a crazy offensive explosion. Yeah. And it really was an amazing game. This Wake Forest team has been really probably the light so far as with like college football. Like they've been actually very, very fun to watch so far. I've enjoyed watching their games so far. A lot better compared to like Oklahoma's games as far as with that. And same with like Alabama and Georgia. Like Georgia's just really just dominating teams right now. And this is I guess this is the thing too to show with Alabama. Even if they do lose, they still got a chance though, which is really, really. Then why have this playoff? Then why have these 4 teams? Then expand it.
Exactly.
This is just a cry for expansion.
Right. If teams can go undefeated and not make the playoff, then it's defeating the purpose of the playoff.
Yeah,
what is the point of, like, I'm Cincinnati and I go undefeated 2 years in a row in the regular season and I never get a sniff at the playoffs? What's stopping all these teams from going to FCS to actually compete for a championship? Because at the end of the day is what's more important? Is it a championship or is it having this FBS distinction?
Right, yeah,
I would rather drop and try to convince everyone else to do that too, and just drop to FCS and try to win an actual playoff. And
I guess this is probably the year. I know it'll probably play itself out. We probably won't have what we have right now. Probably won't have like 4 or 5 undefeated teams right now, but if that's really the case, then this is really just a cry for expansion or something like that. Or, if we have, at the end of the season, we have these 5 undefeated teams, but a 1-loss Alabama team beats Georgia, somehow the Alabama team will get in. So,
and a 1-loss Ohio State team would get in ahead of them too.
Yes. Or a 1-loss Oregon team right now. It's just really, I am very happy though that they scheduled Oregon ahead of Ohio State based on the head-to-head matchup. So I'm really, really happy about that.
I'm happy about that too.
Yes, but it's just, and it really is just a case too. And what happens too with Notre Dame too? Notre Dame's kind of this outlier as well. They definitely got to hope for a lot of losses by some teams of tough, but Notre Dame could kind of sneak in. As well. They've been kind of sneaking into the weeds. Yeah, and really their only loss right now is against Cincinnati.
Right. Oh my God. Like I said, it's a mess. It should never be a bowl system. It needs to expand. It's been needing to expand for a long time. And once again, every year we get this case for it. Because what happens if Alabama beats Georgia at the end of the season in the SEC championship game? Then you're guaranteed 2 SEC schools in there. And so what? Then you're going to have, a 50-team SEC because that's the only conference that gets any respect around here?
Yeah, that's really the only case. Yeah, again, we're going to have to wait and see. Michigan State is, probably playing. They got Ohio State coming up as well, so that's probably going to be like their big test. But if Michigan State keeps winning and winning and winning, they could probably turn the tide. And Michigan State could probably be the number 1 or number 2 seed right now.
Right. And they deserve to be. That was a heck of a comeback win against Michigan.
It was, yes. It was definitely it was definitely a great game. Wow. It was just, I did not expect that type of game, really. That was definitely a very, very good game. And it's a team really with a lot of resilience right now. And, and the whole Mel Tucker rumors is starting up again, LSU,
Yeah.
So it's just like, yep, I'm out of here. I had a successful season. Okay, I'm out of here. Got to go bigger, better ways to.
I don't know. Is there that many bigger, better jobs than Michigan State? I would think that'd be a big enough job.
I feel like that would be a big enough job too. But LSU it's not going to have a coach, so we'll have to see what the LSU goes with that. And we could have some fire rains at some other schools.
Another thing I want to talk about too is go back to that Wake Forest Army game. Man, that thing was insane.
It was insane. It was just
no one played defense.
No one played defense in that game, and that's including Wake Forest. Really. Really, if that's our defense right there with the Army, man. Really. The North Koreans should really just start invading us now. Or the Chinese or something like that. If that was the defense that Army was given.
In any event, I mean, I want to see their two basketball teams play each other and see if they can score as many points as their football teams did playing each other.
It was insane. Like it just, I flipped back over. I was watching other games. I was watching Oklahoma, Kansas at that time, and yeah, I mean, I was watching that, so I kept flipping back over to that game, and it just seemed like there was another touchdown.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. It seemed like there was another two for me.
Yeah, just another two, another touchdown. It was like, oh, they scored again. Or you look at the scoreboard and you're like, oh, they scored again. Oh, another touchdown.
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's early. We're gonna let it. I got a feeling it will play itself out as well. So we'll have to wait and see on that too. So and yeah, we're just gonna have to wait and see. I mean, really, I mean, if Cincinnati goes undefeated and doesn't make it to the playoffs, really, I mean, it's much more of a farce than the BCS system. This playoff committee,
right?
It's much more of a thought. You know, give me back a computer. Bring back the BCS if that's the case.
Right, exactly.
Because obviously the BCS tries to get it right somehow. You know,
right? Versus like, I mean, clearly, like I said, I think there's problems. Obviously, if we're having all these one-loss teams ahead of undefeated teams, so that's my thoughts on it. I think it's crap, but.
Yeah,
Once again, I don't think you could ever have a true champion without a tournament. Look at it. Look at, like I said, my defense is always look at March Madness. There has never once been any debate as to who won March Madness.
Well, I mean, yeah, here or there, but yeah, I totally agree with you on that one.
Like what? The 69th ranked team is disappointed they didn't get in the tournament?
Nope. And that's why they got the NIT. That's why they got the NIT, the losers break.
Right.
You know,
we would have won that thing if we didn't go 17-15 and lose our conference tournament in the first round.
I mean, with Cincinnati's case too, they do have a tough road as well. I mean, it's just looking at the actual, the AP top 25. They do have SMU. They do have Houston coming up, so that's going to be an interesting road, and that may actually help build the resume in a little bit. And if Notre Dame keeps winning, and maybe still have that one loss, that could probably improve the Cincinnati resume.
Right, but they've also already beaten Notre Dame. I would argue that their win over Notre Dame is more impressive than anything Ohio State's done all year.
You're right. Yeah. I mean, it's just that's been like the most impressive probably win. I mean, we'll definitely see it with Ohio State going on, but it's just it just feels like every year, like Ohio State seems to get like the really big games at home. It's like the same with like Alabama and Georgia. Like Georgia this year is just lucky that they get Arkansas. Oh, it's at home. It's like, we get Kentucky. Oh, it's at home.
From what I've seen of this Georgia team, I don't think it matters where they're playing these teams.
No, it does not. Yeah, they're looking definitely like the cream of the crop as far as number one. I mean, they're looking like really good right now.
Absolutely.
And we'll have to wait and see. I mean, if there's a team that can maybe come up and actually beat them, so we'll have to wait and see on that one.
Absolutely. We'll have to wait and see. In any event, obviously very exciting. Well, let's talk about like the NFL real quick. Von Miller getting traded from the Broncos to the Rams.
Yeah, I mean, it really was like mixed feelings as far as with just talking and texting with my friends. Really, I mean, it was a lot of mixed feelings. It was like, oh, just happy for Von, but sad that he's leaving, that type of thing. I mean, I think I'm like the only person that really likes the trade. I mean, really, I think I'm like the only person. I like the trade.
For a second and a third, I don't care who they draft with that.
I mean, really, all it is just stockpiling picks, I think, to try to get Rodgers next year. I think that's just really the case. They're just really stockpiling ammo right now to try to get Rodgers. I'm thinking long term. Everybody's thinking the short term. I'm thinking the long term. When it's announced
too that is on the Broncos next year, then that's the only way I consider this successful.
Yeah. With Aaron Rodgers, and I'm just going to text people that I'm going to be like, see, this is from the Von Miller trade. This is from the Von Miller trade. This is from the Von Miller trade. We got these picks because of the Von Miller trade. You're welcome.
I will eat my words then. But as of right now, Like, you look at this Broncos team, and this fan base is probably as disheartened as I have seen it in my 33 years as a Broncos fan. Like, this is the lowest morale that I feel like we've had as fans. And instead of getting rid of the coaching staff that would have, and a move that would have made everyone happy, you basically say, we stand by Shermer, and you get rid of the face of your franchise and your most popular player.
Yes, and yeah, just watching that game, I mean, really, I feel after watching the Washington game and being there, I mean, really, I mean, you felt like it felt like the end of Squid Game, really. I mean, where it's just like you feel happy that you won, you're happy you won, but then really, was it really worth it? Like, you kind of felt more depressed from winning than compared to losing. Like, it was like one of these weird things, and it's just, I mean, I'm really just not. It's just, I know it's just really kind of disheartening. Where it's just like you're not excited for a win. You're just like,
no,
really. And I mean, that's how I tell people. Every day, every week, it's just like, are you ready to hurt again? That type of thing.
That is a fantastic analogy. Like, you won, but you feel horrible about it. It's like when you win the Hunger Games and you like didn't like really deserve, like, you didn't deserve, like, the Broncos did nothing to deserve the win. They are lucky that the Washington kicker is named Blewett, and he did so on Sunday.
You're right. He blew it. He blew it. I mean, it's just.
And he was such a bad kicker, and we had a Washington fan near us, next to us, and the Washington fan was basically saying, like, I would love to see him kick it and miss. He's so bad at kicking that he kicked it into his own center's head. If you watch the replay, it wasn't blocked. He kicked it into his own center's head.
Yeah, that was very bad. I mean, it's just I expect like maybe like one kick to get blocked, but not two. I did not expect two block kicks during that thing. So I mean, really, I guess that's probably the best thing that's ever happened to special teams.
Right?
No, he didn't miss one.
Okay.
He both of his misses were blocks. So and it's just it's a case too, and Brandon McManus ended up missing a field goal too. So it was it was a weird week. But
McManus was from 53 yards.
Yeah, compared to like a 40 or 41.
Okay, you're not gonna be so bad that he missed it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it really is kind of disheartening. I mean, it's just it's just crazy. I'm ready for this kind of Fangio era to kind of just end, just put us out of our misery. Like, I'm just ready for it to end.
Because I had 12,000 no-shows the other day.
Well,
which for anyone who doesn't know Broncos country, 12,000 no-shows is an insane number.
It is an insane number. Yeah, I mean, I guess when crappy weather and two mediocre teams, I mean, it just. I'm really kind of curious what's going to be like for the Lions game. It really is going to be one of the more interesting ones.
Absolutely,
to see.
They might break 20,000 no-shows with that.
They might, yeah, because it's just, and you watch, it's going to be a blizzard too. So
right,
I'm predicting it right here. Yeah, it's going to be a snowstorm for that game.
Absolutely, can't wait.
It's the middle of December. I mean, trying to get in that holiday spirit and stuff. Also, really, they couldn't wait just one more day. It's just we were getting all the holidays and the Christmas ads on the 30th and the 31st. They really couldn't wait just one more day till like November 1st. Can they at least let Halloween happen first?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. I'm like, I was just getting like just very frustrated. I'm like, you can't just wait one more day. November 1st, okay, I'm fine with it. Okay, can we at least embrace Halloween? Have the kids come in, give the kids trick or treats. Have people dress up as stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's just it couldn't wait just one more day.
Absolutely.
Let people feel grim and just. I guess people feel grim.
Christmas should not start until after Thanksgiving. That's my take.
But it keeps getting earlier and earlier and earlier now.
Right. It's gonna be later. It's gonna be to the point where like the back to school sale will just become the first Christmas sale of the year.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah, get the gifts now. Hold it. We'll have it ready for you December 20. It's August.
It's ridiculous.
It's still like 100 degrees outside.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we got to look at it too. The Braves winning the World Series last night too, 7-0 final over the Astros. Great to see the Braves, at least from my perspective. Great to see them getting their first World Series win in 26 years. They kind of became America's team once it was down to them, the Red Sox, the Astros, and the Dodgers. And so they were able to rise up, battle through all these injuries that they had throughout the season, and get this World Series win. And I couldn't be happier about it.
Yeah, I mean, it was really, I mean, they really took it to Houston. I mean, really, I mean, it was really a dominant performance. I mean, it wasn't a case too where Houston, where a couple of runs could go here, there. No, actually, Atlanta really dominated Houston all throughout, and it really culminated with Game 6, winning 7-0 in Houston as well. So, I mean,
right.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like really, I mean, it's just, I guess, I think Houston, maybe Houston fans are just really kind of sick and tired of this team. Really. I think, I feel like they're ready to pull the plug. They're like, okay, we got the, we got the World Series in 17, but then, with like 19 and 20, and then now with the whole, or 19, 19, 21. And so.
I think they're ready for maybe this era to end where then people will maybe hate the team less if they blow it up.
Yeah, I think so as well. Yeah, and it's just a lot of people from that team are starting to move on as well. And
I mean, they still have Correa, and they still have Altuve, and they still have Bregman, and they still have a lot of these guys that you hate.
Yeah, they do, and it's just really the only person you could really root for is Dusty Baker, who's we talked about it too at our Marty Schottenheimer All Stars. I mean, he's starting to creep up there as far as that. He was on our list as far as with that, and it just creeps up there, man. I mean, it's just, man, he just can't seem to get it done, and it's very, very. I guess it's very frustrating for him. Yes, he won it as a player, but really we're talking about coaches, not just the players, but the coaches and all that. And I mean, it's just. He does have an impressive resume, but really, I mean, what's really lacking for him is that World Series title as a manager.
And that's why he's on the Marty Schottenheimer All-Stars. Like, he's always good about getting his team either to the championship or close to it, and then just not being able to get them over the hump.
Just getting all that, and and he's just can't get over that hump. I mean, and it's just, and really, I mean, it's just too, and his teams have gotten dominated too. Well, they had the comeback in 20 with the pandemic, but then right. And then obviously this World Series, really the Atlanta Braves really dominated the Astros. I mean, it wasn't a case of a run here or a run there. Oh, there's an error that Altuve should have had back. I mean, no. Atlanta dominated that series.
I mean, they really did. And I mean, it's fantastic to see. And I mean, obviously, like I said, I think that it's great. The Braves were kind of America's team, at least this year. And I think it's great to see some of these guys like Freeman. And then obviously for Rockies fans, seeing Walt Weiss and Eric Young win rings as coaches, Tyler Matzek's amazing turnaround. Like, I mean, you really do have some great stories on this team. And, I mean, the way that they were able to just shut down that Astros offense in the end was amazing.
Yeah, really. I mean, the Astros bats really came to life for one game, and that was in Game 5 and do or die. And you thought, Astros were really going to turn around. Nope. And it really came up and backfired. And just really, I mean, and they got shut out too. I mean, this high-powered offense really they got shut out in Game 60, to win the game.
Absolutely. And I mean, we talked about it midseason, and it's going to be our big discussion for today. But the moves the Braves made at the trade deadline, we talked about it in our trade deadline episode. I went back and looked at it today to make sure we did. And we did talk about some of the amazing moves that the Braves made. They brought in Jorge Solaire, who would end up being World Series MVP. They ended up bringing in Eddie Rosario. They brought in Adam Duvall. They brought in Jock Peterson. All of these big bats who played a role in them winning this World Series. And it really was one of the key midseason moves. And, I mean, we're going to talk about it, the best midseason moves throughout sports history. But the Braves and their general manager just deserve so much credit for the moves that they made at the deadline.
Yeah, we again, yeah, you kind of were on the nail on it. You were just like this, the deals that that the Braves made were going to help, and sure enough, it really did help as far as with that, and it kind of helped them with their pieces and getting everything all right. And obviously, they just hit home run after home run, really, with this acquisition. Obviously, getting Jorge Solaire, who ended up being World Series MVP, and he drove the most important runs of the game. And Game 6 was that 3-run shot on the train tracks.
Stadium. Yeah, that was insane.
Oh man, it's just, man, it was loud. Even I heard it, just hearing it on TV. I mean, it was like a loud crack. I mean, it probably sounded bad in the stadium. Really, I mean, it probably sounded like a gunshot.
Yeah.
From that bat to the ball.
The pitcher didn't even turn around.
He knew it.
Around.
He knew it. He was just like, oh, I got it.
Yeah. He didn't even turn around. Jorge didn't even try to run. He just dropped the bat, pumped the dugout. Like, there was not even a second where anyone in that stadium didn't think that ball was gone.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, he basically dropped the bat, pumped his chest to the Braves dugout, and it was gone. I was just like, wow, like, I mean, it's just like Buck got excited. I mean, Joe Buck got a little excited for that, and then just watching it go in, and boom, home run.
Which was amazing because at some points in that game, I wanted to check Joe Buck for a pulse.
Yeah, he was a little,
he was pretty, Joe Buck standards.
He was pretty bland by Joe Buck standards. Yeah, I mean, well, I think maybe he's a little bit tired as well. I mean, he's probably, God knows how many days he's been on the road, with the MLB playoffs and the with football as well. I mean, it's just, and he called really good games too. Like, he had the Arizona Packers game, which was a really good game, and then he had obviously the World Series as far as with that. So I mean, it's just he was definitely a busy man.
They're stretching him too thin. They need to have Gus Johnson replace him.
I agree. Yes, maybe have Buck do the baseball, and then just bring in Gus Johnson for the football. So obviously, with Gus Johnson's in, craziness just seemed to happen. Yeah,
it was so perfect for him to be on the Michigan State call.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's just, he was perfect, and it was just an unbelievable game, and it's just, you want Gus Johnson calling these games, and it's just. Right. It's been an amazing thing.
Absolutely. Now we got to talk about it. We talked about it a few seconds ago with the Braves. Obviously, the Jorge Solaire acquisitions got to rank among the best mid-season acquisitions of all time.
Yeah, you got to put it up there as well. And
just based on the impact he made to get that team a World Series ring.
Yeah, and he started out too. I think he hit a opening. Oh geez, he hit a home run to start the World Series. I mean, really, I mean, that was the case. I mean, his first at bat, he hits a home run. Right. I mean, really, he set the tone of that series, and really, I mean, it was just like a case. I remember just watching like Game 1 and just watching like all this stuff, and I was just like, Atlanta's going to win the series. I just don't know by how many games. I just knew like Atlanta's going to win this game. Atlanta's going to win the World Series. Like, I could even tell by Game 1 that Atlanta was going to win the World Series.
Absolutely, and a big part of that is Jorge Solaire. And
yeah, and it's just,
he was a guy who led the league in home runs 2 years ago.
He definitely has to be up there as far as with the bigger trade acquisitions as well. I mean, it's just, and it's going to be interesting too how big its market value is now. The fact that the DH is going to be universal now going on starting next season. So we're going to see how big his how big his check is going to be, because because 30 teams are going to go after it.
And they also got Eddie Rosario, who was the NLCS MVP at the deadline too.
Yes, and Jock Peterson obviously was an acquisition, and he was lights out as well. I mean, he helped them with the DS and the CS. I mean, he was all over the place.
And Adam Duvall's another guy.
Adam Duvall. I mean, it's just really. I mean, they really. I mean, you thought this team was over after the Acuna injury. You thought, oh, that's over. Just forget about the Braves.
They were under 500 when he got hurt.
They were under 500. They were playing really, really, I guess, mediocre baseball, really. And it's just, I think they benefited too from being really in a crappy division. I mean, if you saw their record, yeah, they really benefited from being in but they're a team that just got hot at the right time.
I just wish when I was in Vegas at the beginning of August, I'd have bet some money on the Braves to win the World Series because they were under 500 at that point.
You should have, yeah. You should have been a bit. And you were on this team. You talked about it on a podcast. You're like, I like these acquisitions. You should have done it.
I should have done it. But like I said, that's got to rank up there. I mean, you got to look at it. Obviously, we don't know what the Von Miller trade's going to do to the Rams. I mean, they look like they could be poised because you got Vaughn and Aaron Donald on the same line. Like, this is a team that could be scary too.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see with that as well. I mean,
you can't include it on the list yet at any point, but
no, you cannot. You cannot include it yet. It's going to be a wait and see approach.
But if the Rams win the Super Bowl this year,
if the Rams do, and Vaughn is amazing, then yeah, you gotta. That's the thing. You got to put it as one of the better trades. I mean, really. I mean, I'm kind of looking at it right now. Kind of the best acquisitions. As far as with like in-season trades. As far as with like NFL, I mean, really, it's nothing too splashy. It's
really not.
Yeah, nothing really happens as far as with that.
It really isn't. Honestly, looking at it, I mean, the Emmanuel Sanders Broncos trade to the 49ers 2 years ago was honestly one of the top ones just because he's one of the few that actually went on to go play in a Super Bowl that year.
Right, exactly. One that really kind of really you got to kind of think. I mean, yeah, it wasn't really like a trade deadline deal, but it did kind of happen in season. That was actually the Herschel Walker trade. I mean, really, right. I mean that kind of helped and benefited really the Cowboys more than the Minnesota Vikings as far as with that. But that's a big in-season trade when you kind of look at it from the longer spec too, which you got to put in perspective. With the Von Miller trade, that could be the trade that starts something. As far as with the Broncos, so I know, but it's not as crazy as the Herschel Walker trade.
The Herschel Walker trade obviously is big, but it's tough to say that it's big. It is big because of who the Cowboys would end up using those picks on.
Yeah, it ended up big as well. Really, one thing you really got to kind of forget too was the Eric Dickerson trade too.
Right.
The year before, or in 1987. I mean, it's just he was really, really good. I mean, it's just he was actually really good for the Colts that year and actually kind of dragging them actually to, I believe, to the playoffs that year. So I mean, it's crazy. I mean, it's just.
But at the time, he essentially goes from one bad team to making at least a team good enough to get to the playoffs. But really, for the most part, he was on teams that I think only could go so far.
Yeah, teams that could go so far. But yeah, I mean, it's just really, I guess when you kind of think about it too, like hockey, baseball, and basketball, I think because the seasons are just a little bit longer, that you really see probably more impactful trades compared to football. Really, right. There really isn't a lot of impactful trades as far as with the NFL.
One that I got to point out, too, though, you got the Bills trading Marshawn Lynch to the Seahawks for just a fifth-round pick. And, I mean, this is one of the best moves in Seahawks history. Marshawn Lynch leads them to a Super Bowl championship, multiple division titles, and what arguably could have been a second Super Bowl championship had they handed him the ball.
Yeah, exactly. That's obviously a very, very good trade and really kind of a swindle from the Seahawks as well and really kind of kickstarted that thing and really kind of kickstarted that franchise going to the direction that they had and had their dominance really in the 2010s because really, I mean, they were one of the more dominant teams in the 2010s, really. I mean, it's just – and, yeah, they were just very dominant. And the Lynch trade really started it.
Now, let's talk about this one. Jerry Rice getting traded from the Raiders to the Seahawks. Do you even remember that this trade happened? I do remember this trade happening. I do remember that trade happening. Yeah, obviously it didn't really pan out well for the Seahawks for that case. Or the Raiders.
Or the Raiders as far as with that. So
it's not on the list for any reason other than I just wanted to see if you remembered it.
Yes, I do remember him getting traded. I mean, it was kind of a sort of big deal, but yeah, it just never really happened as far as with that. So it really just and he was kind of at the tail. He really was kind of at the tail end of the career too for him. So it probably would have been a more impactful trade if it was like, probably late 90s, early 2000s Jerry Rice, not like 04, 05 Jerry Rice.
Right. And then, technically, the Patriots trading Jimmy Garoppolo to the 49ers. Jimmy Garoppolo took him to a Super Bowl. It still technically happened. So.
It still happened. And he's still the starting quarterback. He's still the starting quarterback. We thought he'd be probably replaced by, a lot of people probably thought he'd be replaced by now, but nope, he's still the quarterback. It's still kind of chugging along.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really, as you can see now, it really shows that really midseason trades don't do well.
Football.
Yeah, they don't do much in football. Oh man, who's the guy who got traded from the Jaguars to the Rams?
Jalen Ramsey.
No. There was another pass rusher. Oh God, I'm trying to remember now because it was kind of like a trade deadline deal. Oh my God, this happened in like 18, I think.
I don't have it.
Oh man, I don't remember.
Yep. All right, let's switch sports now. Which sport do you want to talk about next?
Let's stick with MLB.
Let's go to MLB. All right, let's talk about MLB. What are some trades that jump out to you there?
Really, it's more really what kind of jumps out with me too was Cliff Lee getting traded back-to-back years, yeah, with the Phillies, yeah, getting for the Phillies run in 09, and then getting traded literally the next year to 2010 to the Rangers as well. It's just he really was kind of in this hot stove action, really, and just really part of that dominant pitching staff, which is I kind of remember, you kind of look back and man, the Phillies had a really good pitching staff in the late 2000s, early 2010s.
What did they ever with Cliff Lee and Roy Halladay?
Yeah, they were just amazing as far as with that.
All right, let's talk about the Kurt Schilling deal in 2000. As much as I think Kurt Schilling's a douche, the Diamondbacks acquiring Kurt Schilling for a bunch of guys that really weren't helping them that much. Omar Dahl and Travis Lee and Vicente Padilla. The Diamondbacks acquiring Kurt Schilling ends up being a huge move for their franchise and helps them get their one championship.
Right. Yeah. It really helped them. Really making that awesome 1-2 punch with Schilling and Randy Johnson back in the day. Really, it's just, man, that was a really good pitching staff too. That Arizona team, in the late, in the late 90s, early 2000s, man, were a really, really good team. Getting that expansion and then getting those players and then obviously it culminated with them winning a championship in 01.
Absolutely. So that's definitely got to go down as one of the bigger ones I think for baseball for me.
Yeah, it really was a big thing for them as well. And I'm looking at stuff. Oh, also Carlos Beltran getting traded to the Astros. I think I really forgot about that. That's a really enough forgettable trade. He was just really was the face of the Royals for a long, long time. And then, obviously getting traded to the Astros to helping them, get in, getting in 04 as well. And then, but obviously
that's obviously a big part of my list is how much impact does the trade make on whether or not you win or lose. And it doesn't have to necessarily be that season, but if it's in the near future and you're taking those prospects and turning them into wins, that's the big thing.
Yeah, another big thing comes to mind too was CC Sabathia. Literally a year before, the Indians were literally one win away from going to the World Series, and then obviously the next year happens and they trade him to the Brewers, and he really became kind of that workhorse. The amount of times he started, he was started on 3-4 days rest, back in that time. It was just he was an amazing pitcher, and he really kind of put the team on his back and, guided that team in 08.
He sure did. And I mean, obviously, I mean, his impact with the Brewers doesn't end up being that much. But for the rest of that season, he almost got them by himself almost, it seemed like, to the promised land just because he was so dominant that season.
Yeah, he was amazingly dominant. I mean, it's just really the only thing that happened was, giving up 5 earned runs and, in 3 2/3 innings, and as they lost to the Phillies with that. So, I mean, it's just, yeah, but he really put the team on his back and really kind of chugged them along and really getting them to that eventual playoff spot.
Absolutely. Let's talk about too the Yankees getting Gleyber Torres from the Cubs, but sending Aroldis Chapman to the Cubs, and Chapman helps the Cubs win the World Series, which obviously I talk about the impact these players make, and it's really a good trade for the Yankees because they get Chapman back the next year. So.
Yeah, it really is a good trade for them. Yeah, they get some prospects back, and then eventually, it helped the Cubs winning the World Series as far as with that. But yeah, I mean, Chapman wasn't kind of impactful with that, but I think people forget about that. Like he did kind of let the game get tied, and the reason why they went into extra innings and really had that rain delay was because of him.
Yeah, but like I said, it still got them at least through the playoffs too. So, and kind of the same thing, the Royals getting Johnny Cueto from the Reds to help them win the World Series. Like it's another one of these big moves that ends up paying dividends and getting your team. Like, I mean, if you're going to rent a guy for 3 months, that's kind of the goal, is to get that World Series win from them.
Yeah, if it helps the team get better and then helps them win a championship, that's all for it. I mean, right. You always look back and be like, oh, that was a great trade.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't care what the trade is. I'll trade whoever as long as it gets me the championship. I'll trade it all for one championship.
Exactly.
Why do you think Von Miller's so happy in Denver, or like such a big name in Denver? Because he literally carried them to a Super Bowl championship.
Yeah, he carried him to a Super Bowl, and really helped them win Super Bowl 50. And really, he was very, very dominant.
Absolutely, he was. And so that's what I'm saying. That's the big difference maker for me. Is like I said, I'll trade it. I'll rent a player for 3 months for a championship. I have no problem with that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would like that. I mean, right. Love to have that rent, and we're just going to see if he does make an impact. Right. Going forward. I mean, yeah, he did have the ankle injury, so it's going to be like a wait and see approach as far as with him. He really was being dominant as far as with like the run game, like trying to get to the quarterback. He maybe lost a little bit of a step or two, but yeah, I mean his run defense was like amazing though. Like he was definitely like an amazing run blocker.
Absolutely.
Or as like a run stopper. Sorry, not
and
a run blocker.
I think he's going to have a career resurgence with the Rams. I mean, one thing you got to remember is that Vic Fangio doesn't bring any sort of blitz, so it makes it tougher for guys like Von Miller to get to the quarterback when they're not really blitzing on any plays. So the offensive line only has to worry about can double team Von successfully every play.
Yeah, basically, yeah. This is really going to be a telling thing as far as with that. Really, we're going to have to wait and see on this. Really, I mean, this is probably going to be a telling thing to be like, oh, maybe Fangio wasn't that good, as far as with that. And Von's just kind of tearing it up for the Rams.
Yeah, that's my prediction. But in any event, let's get back to baseball and let's talk about the Fred Mcgriff to the Braves trade that happened in the 90s. I mean, Fred Mcgriff helps the Braves get to the World Series and win. Yes, it helps them get to, I think, 3 World Series. It helps them win 1.
Yeah, he really was. I think he's one of the more underappreciated people of the athletes or baseball players of the 90s. I don't think a lot of people really talk about Fred Mcgriff. I think maybe just a lot of people from you and I generation probably remembers him from the Tom and Mansky videos, or hey, it's an all basically it's an all pro move. You should buy this video.
I love Fred Mcgriff.
I do too, and it's just, he really is kind of unappreciative, I think, as far as with that, and just really he was a force to be reckoned with, and going with that Braves lineup, obviously with like Chipper Jones back in the day, man.
David Justice,
David Justice, and I mean it's just he was an amazing player, and it's just and it's just really, I mean, it really kind of helped him. And kind of helped really kind of prolong this Braves run in the 90s.
Now, one more thing you got to talk about with the baseball. And there's only one more I wanted to talk about, and that's the Cardinals trading the A's for Mark Maguire. And I mean, obviously, Mark Maguire never really won anything when he was with the Cardinals, but they really made a splash with this trade just because Mark Maguire had that home run chase, and even though they never got to the playoffs, was kind of the face of that team in the '90s.
Yeah, he really is kind of the face, and I think really, I mean, it really kind of helped popularize baseball again with that home run chase with Maguire and Sosa,
Right.
really back in the day. It's just, yeah, I mean, he crushed 220 homers while with the Cardinals. I mean, that's a lot of homers, really for
Right.
him being really, and it's just he was a really, really good player. He really was, and it really kind of brought back to life with the baseball as far as with that, and yeah, kind of reuniting with his old manager Tony La Russa as well. So it's just it really is kind of a fascinating thing and a fun thing as well. It didn't impactful for the postseason going back with you, but yeah, just seeing how he helped popularize this sport again.
Right. Absolutely. Let's talk about some basketball first. Do any
Do
trades
we
in
have to?
basketball ever stand out to you?
Do we have to? I mean, no. Let's talk
I
about
mean,
more like
if
let's
there,
talk
if
about
there's
more
any
hard
that's,
target.
I was asking you if any stood out to you.
There's definitely a few that has kind of stood out as far as with that. Obviously, the Rasheed Wallace trade,
Yeah.
getting traded from Portland to the Pistons. Really, I mean, he was kind of the final piece to kind of help really, solidify the Pistons and really kind of get them up and actually win the NBA championship in 04, and then getting back to the NBA Finals in 05 as well, and really kind of help really solidify that Pistons team, which really is a really, really good team from the mid to late 90s.
Absolutely. That was a clutch move, clutch trade. And this is, I mean, that's as big of an NBA trade as you're going to get. And I like the Nuggets trading Nick Van Exel and Rafe LaFrentz to the Mavericks for Tim Hardaway and Juwan Howard, just because it got Rafe LaFrentz away from Denver.
Well, I mean, going back to, I mean, the Carmelo Anthony trade too was a late season trade as well. So
Yeah, but I mean, no one really got anything out of that.
No one really got anything. Yeah, we got kind of the mellow thing. I mean, really, I mean, it's just really, but really, it kind of got that mellow thing at as well. So really, the better 15 is playing right now for the Nuggets.
Absolutely. I mean, one thing you got to look at too is the Lakers trading the Grizzlies for Pau Gasol and trading Mark Gasol to get Paul Gasol. So I mean, it's not really an impactful trade, but it's an interesting trade because you get two brothers being swapped.
Well, it actually is kind of impactful because really, I mean, he was kind of that piece. He's kind of that piece that kind of helped the Lakers kind of, have this, this second Kobe Sans, I guess, for that, and just kind of helping them.
But would they have had it with Marc Gasol?
Who would have known, really? I mean, I'm really kind of curious that is a good what if, what if they kept Marc Gasol instead of trading Powell as far as with that. So, I mean, but it really, I mean, it's a trade that really benefited both people. I mean, both sides. I mean, obviously Powell got the recognition, he got the NBA, but really those Memphis Grizzly teams were really good from the from the early 2010s to the mid 2010s, and Marc Gasol was right in the front of it. I mean, really, he was a really good player too. So I think both teams really benefited from this trade.
Oh man, that was a weird 5 minutes where we just talked NBA. So
I'm getting a rash, man.
Weird,
I don't like this.
It?
Yeah, I need to watch a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie now.
In any event, let's move on. Let's talk some hockey. I mean, let's talk about hockey. Anything jump out to you aside from the obvious one?
Just
few.
Yeah, the two obvious ones, obviously, we're homers here. Actually, really, the Red Wings actually getting Larry Murphy in a trade in 1997 on a trade deadline deal with the Toronto Maple Leafs for future considerations. I mean, really, he was a nice little pickup and kind of helping the Red Wings to, really kind of leap over the Avalanche and really win the back-to-back Stanley Cups.
Absolutely. I mean, that was obviously a big trade. Larry Murphy, a solid guy who just kind of floated under the radar and wasn't the biggest name of those teams, but he was a guy who was a big time player for them.
Yes, yeah, he was a big time player for them. It just kind of helped and just really kind of solidified that back line, really, which is really a really stacked team.
Absolutely. I mean, that was obviously a big time move for them, even though I don't like it.
I know. I didn't like it either. But going back as well, 1994, the New York Rangers getting Stephon Matteau and Brian Noonan from the Blackhawks for Tony Amati. I mean, it's just one of these things where you forget that Tony Amati was a Ranger. You know, it's one of those things. I always think Tony Amati is a Blackhawk. Yeah, for some reason. But, you know, I mean, obviously Stephon Matteau was probably the big part of that trade. Really, he's scoring probably probably one of the most, if not probably the most important goal of that 94 run for the Rangers. And that was the double overtime goal against the Devils in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously that's a huge trade in New York Rangers history.
Yeah, it's a huge trade, and it kind of helps too. And it kind of probably one of the better radio calls, you know, of all time with the Matteau.
Absolutely. It's such a big call. Anything that gives us that call, I mean, that's got to rank high.
Yes. it is a good trade. I mean, it was a while. And the Blackhawks got Tony Amati.
Yeah. One of those trades where it actually works out for both sides.
It is. It did.
Those don't happen every time.
No, those usually don't happen. Usually it's like one that benefits the other, you know, which we'll probably talk about.
Right. Anything else you're feeling from the hockey front?
All right, let's just talk about the big ones.
Let's talk about the big ones. Obviously, I mean, the Avalanche making a lot of big moves, but the acquisitions of Ray Bourque, you got to talk about that. That was midseason.
Yeah, that was midseason, and that was such a big trade. I mean, really, when that news came down, I mean, it's just I wish we were a little bit older to kind of appreciate the trade, really. I mean, it's just, you know, just seeing that, you know, that the fact that they acquired Ray Bourque, and people forget too, Dave Anderchuk too was part of that trade as well,
right?
For that pick. And yeah, I mean, it's just really, I mean, Bourque was just kind of happy to be with this Avalanche team, you know, kind of solidified. Really, he was ring chasing. Really, I mean, it was really kind of the first case of ring chasing. Let's put it that way. He was really chasing that ring. He was chasing that cup.
Absolutely. I mean, it was one of the biggest ring chase, and it kind of started that mentality of the ring chase. And I mean, that was obviously such a big trade in Avalanche history. Gave us that iconic moment of Sakic to Bourque with the cup pass, which obviously we've ranked high on other lists.
Winning some big trades, yeah, and it goes back all the way to 91 too with the Eric Lindros trade too. So yeah, Avalanche are just finding ways and ways to win in that trade. Winning trades.
Absolutely. And then let's talk about the big one, obviously.
Well, actually, before we go up, I think people forget too, like we got Rob Blake literally the next year, you know, in that trade as well. And we got Steve Reinprecht out of that deal. I think people forget like how good of a player really Steve Reinprecht was for that Avalanche team. A nice little second to third tier lineman, really. And it's just, he really was a big part of that team, really.
I don't know why I thought the Rob Blake trade happened off season.
Nope, it happened in season. Yep, it happened in season in 01. I mean, that was a really big trade. It was just unfortunate, too, that we got rid of Adam Denmarsh and Aaron Miller. I like both of those players. But the fact that we got Rob Blake and Steve Reinprecht, too, I feel like it was really a big trade for us. It was a nice win for us.
And Denmarsh is one of those guys who started kind of getting injured all the time, too. And so, unfortunately, I mean, I like that player, too. He was a great player. It was Adam Denmarsh for the Avalanche. But he was a guy who definitely had his best years before the trade.
Yes, it definitely was. But yeah, and it's just Rob Blake really, you know, kind of helped solidify that defense too with Ray Bourque as well. And it's just, you know, just that nice hip check and really kind of made that nice defensive hockey that, you know, kind of made that nice early 2000s NHL team work, you know, style of play. But let's put it that way.
Absolutely. I mean, that's obviously a huge, huge all-time trade.
All right, let's talk about the big one.
Let's talk about the big one. The Colorado Avalanche acquire Patrick Waugh.
I mean, that I think people probably put. I mean, really. I mean, if it's not for if it's not for probably the Herschel Walker trade. I mean, this is the hockey world's version, probably. I think of kind of that, or it could be as well. You know, with the with the Matt Duchene trade as far as with that. But really, I mean, this was really a big acquisition. You know, with the Avs getting Patrick Waugh, really, and that's just really kind of helping that team really kind of solidify as a cup contending team. And obviously it paid off that first year with the Avs winning the cup in '96, and then really being, I guess, Western Conference dominant teams. I mean, they were making the Western Conference Finals basically every year since when the Avs came into existence.
And I mean, that is such a huge trade too, because I mean, we talk about a lot of these trades. Maybe they've been rental players. They were guys who were with the team for a couple of years. I mean, this is a guy in Patrick Waugh who was with the Avalanche for almost the next decade, led them to 8 consecutive division championships, 2 Stanley Cups, and obviously he's the greatest goaltender of all time.
And numerous Western Conference Finals approaches. I mean, really, I mean, it was just, 96, 97, 99, 2000, 2001, 2002. I mean, we were making the Western. I mean, they were making the Western Conference Finals for every year for 7 years. I mean, it's just really just a dominant team, and he was kind of the backbone of that team.
Absolutely, and I mean, like I said, I mean, that is just as dominant. And it's not like any of the guys the Canadians got have ever led them anywhere.
No, it didn't as well. And obviously the Avs got a good player too with Mike Keane, who kind of helped them get to the Stanley Cup, and really was a nice, formidable, third checking line for center for them too. I mean, it was a case too. And yeah, I mean, just he was an unbelievable thing, but obviously Patrick Waugh is the big deal with that as well. So, I mean, it's just, he was definitely one of the biggest acquisitions, I think.
I mean, we've gone through this list, and I mean, it doesn't seem like there's been another player like Patrick Waugh, except for maybe Maguire, maybe Fred Mcgriff, who was acquired at this point in their career, like Patrick Waugh was, like still very much in his prime of his career.
Yeah, well, usually these trades probably happen, in the off season. That's usually the case, we'll probably have numerous examples, but yeah, as far as with like in season, this guy getting traded in his prime right now, I mean, that's one of the crazier parts.
Right, absolutely, because we even talked about it with the Von Miller deal, and there's a lot of people questioning that he may not be in his prime anymore, versus like I said, Waugh fully in his prime. I mean, that is as good of a trade as you're going to get.
Yeah, it really was a good trade, and it's just and we were having discussions too. It's like why wasn't it Roy? What is this Waugh? Like we didn't know like any concepts of like French Canadian words.
No, we had no idea. We had no concept of how big this deal would end up being. But
looking back at it now, yes.
We get a pass because we were 6 and 7.
Yeah, we were 7 we were like 6 or 7 when the trade happened.
Right. So I mean, once again, it's tough at that point to fully appreciate it. But now looking back on it, and to see like this team being like the dynasty that the Avalanche built off of that, I mean, it has to be one of the most impactful trades of all time.
Right, and it helped us become hockey fans, really. I mean, I think you have to think like the 96 Avalanche, for us becoming hockey fans and not basketball fans, I think as far as with that.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think about that as well. And it's just, you can go back and listen why we're not big basketball fans, growing up. We show it why,
This
the Nuggets suck.
NBA podcast had the Patrick Waugh trade not gone down. So in that sense, it's got to be one of the biggest trades of all time, too.
It has to be, yeah. It impacted our lives. Let's put it that way.
For sure. Awesome. Well, like I said, it's great to see all these some of these mid-season trades paying off for the Braves, and obviously, who knows what's going to happen with that Von Miller trade. But like I said, it's a good list to make at this point in time, and I thank all of you for checking it out with us. And if you have some ones that we forgot, drop them in the comments.
Yeah, drop it. Yeah, we would love to see. Yeah, we will probably discuss it next week as far as with that. Okay, switching topics now. Okay, I you know what? I was obviously last week's podcast, with the Craig Robinson with the pineapple person. Would you prefer him being a pineapple person or him being a Gainiac? Because I feel like that gain commercial is getting a little bit annoying as well.
I prefer him being a Gainiac.
You prefer he's a Gainiac,
Maybe it's because I'm a Gainiac and not a pineapple person. So
you're not a pineapple person. As far as with
that. Love that gain, baby.
He's a Gainiac. Yeah.
I'm a Gainiac too, so if they want to send me some free stuff, like I'm all for the gain. Send me the gain.
Yeah, send Sean the gain. And also, what's funny? So I was watching like the ending credits of like 2.5 Men last night, and I found out that the theme song was written by 3 people. And here are the lyrics: man, 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 manly man, 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 ooh. Man, 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 manly man, hoo, 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 hoo. It took 3 people to write that song. I mean, it's just that. I mean, it's just wow. I mean, I just couldn't believe it that thing. I'm like, wow. It's like, it was like, oh man, you think they were probably in the writers' room and they were like, oh man, ooh, why don't we do the hoo, 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 hoo. Should we do that?
One guy probably just committed or helped out with the woo part, and then his name's on the credits too.
Oh, what should we do to end? Let's do the man. Let's add a man to it with the Brilliant, Dave.
Wow.
You get a writing credit. I think it was the same people that wrote the lyrics for Rihanna's part in Work.
Oh God. I hate that song so much. I'm totally bought in going right now. It probably is the same guy, and it's created. I mean, the 2.5 Man song. I mean, it's a catchy tune, but once again, there's song versus theme songs.
I am all in favor. Yes, I am all in favor. I want to do that.
But wow,
I want to do that. I love that. I am all in favor of that. Wow. Give me that all the time. I can't believe
it took 3 people to write that. I kind of want to look up how many people it took to write down Rihanna's work.
Oh, there's this guy. There's this guy. Maybe a DJ Khaled collab. Drake, I think Drake added the wah 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 wah.
Yeah, who was the dur guy?
Dur. I think it was Matt Stone and Trey Parker. With the dur.
Oh wow!
Oh
my God!
I just couldn't believe it. I saw it. I was just like, there was 3 writing credits. I'm like, there was 3 people who thought of this theme song. Like, wow. What happened with this? What was the writers' room like? I'm just kind of curious about that.
It reminds me of like a Simpsons episode, the one with Poochie, where they're like, Krusty basically says, think of a name for this character. Something like Poochie. And then like, but better. And then they're all just like, look around and they're like, so Poochie? And everyone's like, yeah, Poochie's good.
Yeah, Poochie. Yeah, let's do Poochie. Yeah. I mean, it's just, it's crazy. I mean, I just couldn't believe it,
Wow.
Yeah.
Like I said, I mean, I love it. I love going off the rails, and this was one that I think opened my eyes. That the person that wrote the 2.5 Man song and the Rihanna song Work is probably the same guy.
Yeah, it's probably the same guy. Yeah.
Oh my God. No, this is actually worse.
Oh my God. No.
So, I mean, you talked about the 2.5 Men thing. I mean, this Rihanna song was written by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people. 7 people.
Oh my God. 7 people wrote that song.
Including both Rihanna and Drake. I mean, I'd have to do more Wikipedia research to see if any of them are the same guy from the 2.5 Man thing. I'm just going to make it up in my mind that they were. But that is horrible.
All right. So Drake, you do your own thing. Okay. No, get done now and work on over. We only have really lyrics for a 30-second song. How do we stretch it out, really?
Exactly. Basically, the guy who wrote this just wrote down work a bunch of times. What are we gonna do?
I'm gonna add another work here. Oh, let's add another one. You know what? Let's just add another one.
Oh,
How about work? No, let's go wah 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 wah. Ooh, I like the wah wah. Okay, wah 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 wah.
yeah.
Dur.
Dur.
No,
I
some guy
was
goes
watching Team America, and I really like this dur thing they keep saying. Let's do that.
Let's do that one. Yeah.
Damn. Man, I want to go back to talking about the NBA because I like it better than the Rihanna work song.
No, also, there's actually a lyric in there which is like I don't think it's like the most flattering thing ever for like women. So it's like one of the Drake lyrics is really if you had a twin, I would still choose you.
If you
like,
had
what is that about? Like, you should be flattered. Oh yeah, if you had a twin, I would still choose you, though. You know.
Well, clearly this song is not that well written, which really makes me think of the things I'm writing, like our Extra Innings movie, where Jean-Claude Van Damme is just roundhouse kicking mascots the whole time. Really, I'm probably putting too much thought into it.
Yes, I know, and it's just, it was just very, very bad right now. I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, I don't think that's really a flattering thing. You know, if I had a twin, I would still choose you. I don't know. Maybe maybe you should say that to your fiance. You know, hey, during your wedding toast, if you had a twin, I would still choose you.
No, I'm not going to do that. In any event.
Oh, I'll say that to like the next girl I kind of hit on at a bar. If you had a twin, I would still choose you. You know,
there you go.
see how that goes. You know, see if I get slapped. You know,
I don't think you're gonna get slapped. You'll probably just get like a confused look. But either way,
or they'll be like, or they'll go dirt. The wah wah wah.
Oh my god. Well, that's the way. I can't think of any other way to bring this back on track. So, I mean, this thing is going off the rails.
We spent 5 minutes discussing Rihanna's work.
Oh my god.
Oh.
Well. Oh man, I hate that song. That's the good note to end it on. In any event, thank you guys for watching. We appreciate it. Go back and check out all of our other episodes and follow us on Twitter at SPBushy.
All right, thank you. Actually, I found out what I'm going to do now for Sean's bachelor party. Now, just kind of thinking about that. Yeah, I'm going to get him pineapple pizza now. We're just going to play Rihanna's work on loop now. We're just going to do that. You know, I'm going to play that now at your wedding, right? At your wedding reception. We're just going to dance to it now. Yes, that is so going to be on the playlist now.
I'm going to draw it up in the contract with the DJ that if he pays that song, he doesn't get paid.
I'm just going to tell him, still do it. I'll pay. I'll pay for you. Still do it.
No.
All right. Peace, guys. Have a great night.
All right. Have a good one. Wow.